Alrighty, and we're on. So I'm here with Kristof Szanto,
That's it,
the
Kristof
performance
Szanto.
dietitian. And we're sitting at USC Gym Rockdale, so shout out to Marwan. Thank you for letting us use your space. But to sort of give people an idea, let's probably start with like what it is that you do, so that you can give yourself a little bit of a shout out as well and a plug for your business as well.
Of course. My aim is to optimize athletes' performance and recovery through nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do currently is help a lot of combat athletes. I predominantly work with combat athletes at the moment, but I'm open to all athletes, helping them improve their performance, recovery, eating the right things, fueling for training. And in the combat sports world, of course, making weight is a big thing. So making sure they do it well, healthily, with the least amount of problems.
Yeah. No, well, I guess, if you think about what are the pillars, I think there's sort of 3 pillars for any aspiring athlete or professional athlete. And it's eat, exercise, and nutrition, right? Like eat, sleep. Yeah.
Eat, train, sleep.
Eat, train, sleep. Yeah. They're probably the 3
100%.
key pillars of any performance athlete anyway. So let's sort of...
On that,
Yep.
with the sleep, I just put together an infographic.
Okay.
So if anyone wants it, come hit me up.
Okay.
I'll send it through. It's linked through nutrition. How
Yep.
nutrition can improve your sleep, thereby performance.
Yep.
It's free for everyone. So just hit me up.
Okay.
I'm happy to send it.
So I guess let's lead with this. So if people want to find you, is Instagram the best place? Or?
Instagram's the best place.
And it's at ks.
It's theperformancedietitian.ks.
Theperformancedietitian.ks.
Yes.
All right, let's sort of wind it all back for people and let's talk a little bit about, I guess, what your life was like growing up and things like that. Were you born in Australia?
No, I'm from Hungary. I'm from Nagykanizsa, which is near the Croatian border in Hungary.
Yep.
I was there until I was 12.
Yep.
And then we migrated out to Australia. First, my mum came in 97. Then I come in at the end of 2000.
Yep.
And then my dad come maybe 10, 11 years ago. Once I started making a bit more money and able to hook him up with a job and everything like that, we brought him out too.
Okay.
For the good life.
For the good life. All right, let's talk a little bit about that because I'm always curious about people's upbringings, right? And I guess this will, as we sort of go down the chronological track, it'll sort of lead into how you got into what you're doing.
Sure.
But so if you're in Hungary up until the age of 12, you probably have quite a lot of memories in terms of living in Hungary.
Plenty. I did basically primary school there. So when I come here, I learned English for 1 year. I went to high school. So I think year 5 is when I arrived in Australia.
Yep. Okay. So tell us a little bit about what was Hungary like back then? I actually have never been to Hungary. So, the more descriptive you are, the better.
Look, it's a beautiful country.
Yeah.
But my part of town isn't.
Okay. Yeah.
Look, it's got a lot of history, which is great. But where I grew up, again, I'm sure you've heard this 1,000 times, housing commission, this, that. But that was the normal there, so I didn't know any better. I just lived in 4-story flats.
Yep.
Always playing outside, always playing sport, kicking the ball around. That was it. I was always outside.
Yep.
It was the best. I don't think I had a TV in my room till I was 13 or something. So
Okay.
no computers, nothing. I just got a soccer ball, throwing sticks at each other.
Yeah.
I mean, having a good laugh, having a good time. It was great memories.
And I guess being in a complex like that, you do form great relationships with the people in your building, right?
100%. There's always other kids my age playing down. We've got little gangs, you fight the other building. Like it was just honestly, it was a lot of fun. Looking back, I think it forged a bit of resilience, toughness. You had to handle yourself because it was just the way of life,
Yep.
If you're a pushover, you're always going to be a pushover back then, But I guess having the right people around you, good friends, you can always lean on them. And, it was fun. It was really fun.
Yeah. And what was school like in Hungary?
School was great. Again, I just played a lot of sport, man. I never did much studying. They always said I got the potential, but as I got older, I just was playing more football. So there's a lot of PE, which I was actually going to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
So, there was just a lot of sport. I think every day we had at least 1 hour of PE.
Yep.
So if not more, plus training 3-4 times a week. So we're always fit. We're always athletic.
Yep.
Which is a big difference compared to over here in Australia. I think you were talking with Renato, I think, in the podcast, how the gymnasts and how coordinated the kids were and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, it's one of those things that, so motor skills, to develop motor skills, you need to, or the way that kids develop it is through play. Whether it's, when they learn how to, fit the puzzles through the thing, like the circles,
holes in the block.
the holes in the blocks and things like that, whether it's doing that kind of thing or trying to fit those wooden jigsaw puzzles in, that's developing their fine motor skills. And it's interesting, like even, I was doing this with my kids the other day. trying to, I think we're going to Vivid, right? And so we're on the train, and I was sitting on the opposite side of them, and we're in the main part of the carriage. And I'd be like to my son, okay, show me one. And we'd be like this, and I'd be like, can you do this? Like, putting up a peace sign. And then he'd be there trying to work out his fingers. And then I'd be like, okay, let's try and, put your pinky up. And then go with your pointing finger, the middle finger, and then trying to do your ring finger. And like
100%.
the ring finger is always the one, like, everybody's like, how does this work? You can see it's like in their brain, the motor function skills are just going, we don't quite know how to do this. And then it's like, okay, can you do like the Spock thing, like that, the live long and prosper, I was trying to get him to do that. And it was really interesting when you watch them do that. And some kids like my youngest, Eden, she copies her elder sister a lot. So, like, she's probably better at writing than my son is. Like, she holds like with a nice pencil grip and all this sort of stuff. My son is just like Unco.
Exactly the same in my boys. I'm not kidding with that writing and the pencil.
Yeah,
my older boys like that, and my youngest got perfect grip. I'm like, wow, where'd you get that from?
Yeah, that's right. You didn't get it from him.
100%. Yeah, and that is funny though. My boy with the shakas, he's like.
Yeah, he's trying to he doesn't have that.
Yeah, not yet.
The fine motor skills.
Yes, he has to think. He has to figure it out.
Yeah, but then like when it comes to the big actions, like they're very good at kicking and punching and moving, like those sorts of movements. But he's just not good with the fine stuff. And it's like, I don't know whether, like, I guess a part of that is probably what sort of activities they're doing, but it's also where their interests lie.
100%.
Like he likes to play around and do a lot of running and doing like very imaginative sort of things like that. He doesn't like to sit there with a pencil and draw. Whereas, my eldest Cadence, like when she was young, sometimes I'd find her under the table, with a pencil and paper, just like practicing a colouring or trying to write stuff and
different
scribbles.
interests, like you said.
Or on the walls.
Yeah. Well, in saying that, but like, I feel like as the kids are growing up here, would be Johnny, how are you? As the kids are growing up here, you'd have to put them into gymnastics, you have to put them into athletics, you have to put them into all these extracurriculum sports for them to develop these habits and develop these skills, so to say.
Yeah.
But over back home, you're just thrown in. You're doing this non-stop. In winter, you're doing the gymnastic. That's your PE. You're learning to flip. You're using those jumping boards, developing those sort of skills. In summer, you're out there playing sports, ball sports, athletics, long jump, high jump. You're constantly exposed to this sort of stuff. Whereas here, I feel like I'm going to have to put my son in, hey, let's find you a little athletics. Hey, let's find you this, rather than school developing that sort of stuff.
So that was something that was quite common in the primary school at Hungary.
It's just normal,
Just normal.
100%. Everyone, and even if you're the person that's not the sporty one, you're still there. You're doing your best. You're encouraged. Potentially, you're punished. You have to run more laps because you're too slow. No, like this was the reality. This was the reality,
And when it came to education, so what language did they teach in?
Hungarian, only Hungarian.
Yeah.
So I spoke. We started learning English, but I think I was still young to really pay too much attention.
Yep.
Hungarian was enough.
Yeah, fair enough. And so then when it came time for like you guys to start coming over, so you said your mum came first.
Yes.
What was there any catalyst for that? Like, was there a reason why she decided?
We had a friend. She's got a childhood friend that actually lived out here.
Okay.
And then they haven't met each other for about 10 years or something. They haven't seen each other. And she come home and one conversation and, hey, why don't you guys all move out here?
Wow. And so then you mentioned your mum went first.
Yeah, mum came first.
And
She's a soldier. Shout out to Mumsy.
And so she came out here, started working,
working,
saving
sorting
up
out
some
her
money.
life.
Yeah.
Getting married.
Yeah.
Get the visas.
Yep.
Get that sorted. And then bring me over.
Yep.
And then the plan was Dad comes, but, life gets in the way. So he came about 10 years later than expected.
Yeah. So for you, when they sort of told you, hey, we're going to move to Australia, like what did that sort of click for you? Like, hey, this is somewhere that's on the opposite side of the world, or you were just this is normal?
No, I had a map of the world.
Yeah.
I always looked at it.
Yeah.
A little globe that you spin around. So I always liked geography sort of stuff. So I knew where it was.
Yeah.
But it didn't register.
Yeah.
Like it was a big thing, big conversation that would have happened, and apparently my mum just said, I said, yeah, no worries. And the day where she dropped me off at school, because I didn't see her for almost 3 years, she dropped me off at school. I didn't even look back to say goodbye. You know what I mean? Like it just didn't register. And but again, mum's a soldier. Yeah. She's the best person ever. She called me every Sunday at midday for 3 years straight, So I was looking forward to those phone calls. I never felt abandoned or that I'm left behind or anything like that. Not one bit of feeling in me. It was just, hey, this is the process of what we're doing. So I guess I understood that bit, but I couldn't actually understand the concept of me moving somewhere, not seeing her for 3 years. That didn't register at all.
Yeah. Yeah, until you're going through it, and then you're like, "Where's mum?" Like, did you come back that afternoon and say to dad,
No,
"Hey,
no,
where's
I
mum?"
don't remember. I remember one Mother's Day at school back in Hungary where they not kicked me out of the class, but they go, "Oh yeah, just go outside and play with another kid." I guess he didn't have a mum. I was like, "I got a mum, she's just not here." You know what I mean? So we played ping pong. I remember clearly. You know what I mean? And that was the only time that I've ever felt like, "Hey, mum isn't here." Whereas for the whole other time, I always felt like she was there the whole time.
Yeah. So then, when you had to go on the plane, did you go on the plane by yourself to come here?
Yeah, the stewardesses that look after you, you know.
Yeah.
So again, this is huge for my parents. Like I can't even imagine throwing my boys when they're 11 or 12 on the plane and see you in 25.
Yeah, see you there.
Would have been 36 hours. That wouldn't have been the direct flight, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, they threw me on the plane. No English, nothing.
Wow.
Do your best, son.
And then
I made it.
well, do you remember any, like, you know, what was going through your mind? Was that your first time on a plane as well?
First time on a plane, first time everything. I was always excited for life, so I was just eyes wide open, learning everything, you know.
Yeah.
It was a cool experience. Didn't
Yeah.
get sick. I hated plane food.
Yep.
I knew how to order a Coke.
Yeah. Okay.
That's it. That was my only English, you know. Drinking Coke for the whole flight.
6 Cokes in, and it's like, I think we shouldn't have any more Coke. You're like wired.
100% loving it. But yeah, they put me with other. I remember they put me with other kids. We tried to speak, you know. I had my dictionary.
Yeah.
They showed me the cockpit.
Yeah,
Stuff like that. You know, I remember stuff like that.
That's cool.
Which was cool.
And then when you landed, like, obviously mum would have been waiting for you at the airport, right?
Yeah.
What was that like after not seeing her for 3 years?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Hugs, kisses.
Yeah.
You know, I was just so happy.
Yeah.
So they lost my luggage, so I had no shoes.
Oh, no.
I remember I had whatever I wore, but like in Hungary, you don't walk around barefoot, like ever. Like if you got no barefoot, people think you don't have shoes. So here I'm going to one of the Westfields buying shoes, and I'm walking around barefoot. I was like, this is wild. It was a really good experience there. Like looking back, I really appreciate the work that she's done.
Yeah.
Making life better for her kid.
Yeah,
giving up everything for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So do you have any siblings?
No, only child.
Only child.
I was enough. After this, I was like,
yeah. Fair. So what was it like then, you know, having to try and adjust to life in Australia? You know, obviously the language skills you had to pick up. Do you remember what it was like when you first started school here?
Yes. I went to Cleveland Street Intensive English Centre in the city.
Yep.
That's where we learned English, and everyone was there trying to learn English, so it was all right.
Yep.
Again, pretty girls coming to talk to me. I was a little blonde kid that was cute. I remember they were asking me, like looking back, I don't know what they asked me, but later on I figured out they were asking me, how are you? How do you say how are you in your language? Yeah. And I just kept saying, good, thank you. Good, thank you, because that was my only English. And I looking back, I was like, now I know what they were asking me.
Yeah.
It was good. A little bit of bullying, you know. I guess people had gangs, their own nationalities in that school, whereas I was there's not many Hungarians around. Yep. So I was more friends with the Russians and my cousins, basically, my type of people.
Yeah, fair. So what was the bullying around? Just like, you know, a little bit of like...
Yeah. Not giving a pencil to these Korean kids, you know, stuff like that. And then they headbutted me, and then... Yeah.
Oh, so the Korean kid asked you for a pencil?
No. They asked me, and I didn't think I gave it, and then he headbutted me in class. Oh, wow. And I was like, just wait, mate. and then I told my mum's husband at the time, and they were just big crazy people. So they come down to school, pull them all out the front, threw them up on the wall. You touch him again.
Oh, wow.
After that, everyone was my friend.
Yeah, fair.
Once you got the family, you know, that comes and protects you, which is what you really want in life, you know. Family step up in times of need and look after you.
So then how long did you spend at that Cleveland Street School?
Basically a year. So I did...
Year 6 there, sort of?
Yes, let's call it that.
Yeah.
Let's call it that. And I went to Vaucluse High.
Okay. And so what do you remember of high school? Like, what was that experience like for
Amazing.
you?
I played sport. I guess when you're playing sport, you can always easier connect with people that play sport, you know.
Yeah, of course.
You're not an outsider, you're part of a team.
Yep.
I'm coordinated. I was fast. So it was all right, you know.
Yeah. It helps you to blend in, especially if you're good at sport as well, because people want you to be on their team.
100%. And soccer or football is universal language, man. So it's easy. Everyone that loves football, we stick together, we play around, and that's the friendships I still have from high school now.
Yeah. So then when you were going through high school, like, did you have any idea what you wanted to do after that?
No. So no idea. Play sport, play until things got serious. I call it serious, say like year 10 when, you know, you should be trying to figure out. And from year 10 onwards, I decided I just want to party. That's all I wanted to do. So that lasted a few years. Yeah. A few years until I got my head sorted.
Okay. So can we talk a little bit about that? You know, like in terms of the
Sure.
partying, and then like what was it that sort of made you realize that, hey, I need to actually work my life out?
I guess mum always asked, like, no, they'd never pushed me to do anything I didn't want to do. And I remember clearly when we were 18, 19, finishing school, they're like, oh, what do you want to be, Kristof? What do you want? I go, man, I'm just going to party. So when I done my Ibithas, I done my world festivals, you know what I mean? That's the life I was about. Just living for the weekend, doing whatever, having a good time.
And so what were you doing?
Work.
Yeah, what were you doing for work?
A bit of labouring, a bit of bar work, a bit of floor sanding, whatever.
Yeah.
Just, I'm guessing, earning money wherever.
Yeah. So
was
save
fun.
your money up, use it to go party.
Yeah, 100%. And I enjoyed that lifestyle. And my mum always said, when are you going to go to uni? And I remember telling her when I'm like 18, I'll just worry about it when I'm 25 or something.
Okay.
And then, so I said that, and I usually stick to my word. Not usually. I stick to my word pretty well. And then when the time was coming, I was like, fuck, I'm
Okay, it's
turning
coming up to
25 soon, man.
Okay, I got to do something.
Let's figure it out. And really, a big catalyst for change was meeting my now wife, Annie, you know. She kind of got me out of that lifestyle. I was heading down bad paths, doing stupid stuff, being silly, just, you know, not caring about anything. Yeah. And then met her, sorted me out, love, you know.
Yeah, fair enough. So was it like, you know, obviously the party scene, there's a bit of enjoyment of the illicit substances, so to speak. So did you find that, you know, were you just on it too much, or was it just like...
No, just for me, it was just a normal thing. It was the weekend. Yeah. Let's party.
Yeah.
And it was fun. It was fun. And then, but when I met my wife, you know, that was, hey, we don't need to go out every weekend. You know, there's other things to do. Yeah. And then I just grew out of it, thankfully, you know. So it wasn't like, oh, it's time to change or this, that. Yeah. It just got left behind. Yeah. And I guess that's evolution as you're growing up and process of growing up in life. So, which was awesome. But I got to thank her for that, because she got my head right, you know. Love sorted me out. Yeah. And then I decided to go get my PT certificate. Okay. And I was a personal trainer I still do a bit of PT. Yeah. But I started, I think, when I was 21. Okay. And I was running that for about 3-4 years, being pretty successful. Had a few trainers working for me. We were earning good coin. I had a good client base. And I realized that you're doing split shift. So you're doing morning shift and the hour rush. Yeah. And in the middle, I decided to, hey, let's go get a degree of nutrition, because that's where everyone's lacking. Okay. So I decided to utilize my time well. Yep. And I went and got a Bachelor of Health Science, Food and Nutrition degree from Charles Sturt Uni, by correspondence. Okay. So I did online uni. I did that for about 4 years. Wow.
So, okay, let's talk a little bit about that, because it's always interesting, you know, the PT lifestyle where, you know, you're working obviously in the mornings before people start work. Yep. And then obviously in the evenings when they finish work. Yep. That's just sort of the lifestyle, and you usually will have like a big break in the middle. Yes. So it can be very either boring if you do nothing with it, or, you know, like what you did where you decided, okay, I've got this massive break in the middle of my day. I need to do something. Why did you notice that people were lacking so much on the nutrition side? Were you seeing things in terms of like when you were training people and you realised that, hey, people don't really have a good understanding of how to fuel their body, or like how the importance of diet in terms of achieving their goals?
100%. I don't think you can out-train a bad diet. So that's the main thing. You see people training hard. They're training with me 3-4 times a week, and once you start paying attention to the nutrition, the results came, and it was like, wow. Hey, let's do something. I knew I didn't want to do PT forever. Yeah. I always looked into the future saying, hey, when I have kids, what if I'm doing PT in the morning before they go to school so I don't see them? Yeah. And then PT at night when they get home from school, when am I going to see my kids? Yeah. And that was like, see, I'm looking like 10 years down the line already going, hey, I need a way out. Yeah. But I do love the health and fitness space and helping people. Yeah. So that's what made me do nutrition. Plus a couple of other people I talked to, they're like, oh, yeah, you know, nutrition, I'm doing this degree. It's going to take 6 years. Because part-time, that's what it is, you know, your undergrad. And I was like, oh, if this guy can do it, I can do it too. And that's what made me sign up. And I realised, hey, I can handle more workload than others. Yeah. So I did it in 4 rather than 6. Yeah.
So you just took more subjects, right?
Took more subjects, did summer classes too. Yep. Whenever, like once I figured out that, hey, I really like this, studying was easy. Like I said before, I never studied in school. I didn't enjoy it because there was nothing that interested me, or potentially I wasn't mature enough in my head to focus on something positive, you know? Yeah. Whereas here I found studying super easy. I was like, this is mad. I love learning about this. This is awesome. So just
obviously
second nature was it? Literally like it was no effort.
Yeah. Because you had this interest in it, right?
100%.
So like the motivation's already there. So it's like, okay, yeah, tell me more.
100%.
Were there things that you had learnt when you were doing the university degree that you feel is outdated now?
It's a big difference between your undergrad and my master's. So I'm a dietitian, so I got a master's of nutrition as well, master of nutrition and dietetics. So undergrad is really simple. Like what was good about my undergrad, that because I was already writing diets because I like the research, I was already doing stuff. And then what I learned in my undergrad, hey, I'm on the right track with this. You know, I was like, it backed up that I've already self-taught myself from YouTube, from I forgot some chat group. That was back in the bodybuilding days, bodybuilding forum, stuff like that is where I learned a lot of stuff at the beginning. Yep. And so-called outdated is just, I think you learn to work with people differently. So before it was very black and white, my approach, especially during my undergrad at those stages, hey, this is how we're going to do it. This is how you get the results. So 100%, if you focus this, you get thick skin shredded. It's mad. But then you realize, hey, not everyone got that level of motivation or commitment. They can't. And I think that's what comes with your masters. You get to learn a lot more how to deal with different approaches. So it's not just one way fits all. You got to tap into people's motivation, tap into people's how to make them more compliant, how to speak to them in their language, you know, that they understand.
Well, I think, you know, as with any discipline, right? Like if you can approach your disciplines where you've got this some kind of motivation or you're happy to do it, it's a lot easier to stick to. Whereas I think a lot of people, when they think of, you know, the word diet, they immediately associate that with like, oh, you don't get to eat what you want.
100% restrictions instantly.
Right?
I always say that too, man.
Yeah. It's like straight away it goes to this negative mindset. Oh, you can't have this. You can't have that. You got to remove this or remove that.
Yes.
And like I excuse me, people like, you know, they don't like being told what to do in that sense.
100%.
Right? So, but, and the other reason why I bring this up is because, like, say, as an example, myself and my wife, we're very different in terms of, like, how our bodies respond to different things. So for me, you know, I'm fortunate in the sense that, like, I've never been out of shape. But, like, if you look at what I eat, sometimes I eat fucking bullshit. Like, when I say bullshit, like, my diet in, say, when I was, like, in at the end of high school and uni days, it was, like, basically KFC used to have this dinner for two. Well, I used to eat that dinner for two for one, right? And it'll be like, and so like I have a very specific order. Shout out to KFC if you want to sponsor me. But I had this very specific. I have a very specific order when I go to KFC to be, okay, I want a 3-piece feed. Change the potato and gravy to just a plain gravy. I want 2 thighs and a leg, or 2 legs and a thigh. They'd be the pieces of chicken that I'd want, and a bottle of water for the drink.
I can work this into any plan, man.
Right. Well, but this is like, you know, how specific I would be with my ordering of my food, right? And like. The gravy to me was not just a sauce for my little bread roll and my chips and my my chicken. It was a drink after as well. Like that'd be my chaser to sort of wash everything down, right?
It's too dry.
Yeah, like So but like I'm very specific when it comes to my orders, and people like when I was used to be in the dealerships and things like that, and people would be organising lunch runs. They'd try and avoid Subway because it's like if it's Subway, then I have a very specific order as well. It'd be
they got to write down a big list like, we're not ordering for Johnny.
And I'll share this story because it like this is I'm sure one of the guys stitched me up on this, right? But so what I would order when I go to Subway would be a foot-long pizza sub, right? And then when it comes to the salads, it's 4 slices of tomato, 4 slices of cucumber. Right? This is how specific I am. 4 slices of tomato, 4 slices of cucumber, Old English cheese, right? And a little bit of everything else, right? Now, I've written this down on a Post-it note. I've given it to one of my staff members. My staff member's gone out to get me this sub and, you know, get the lunches and whatever. They come back, they give me this sub, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? This thing weighs 2 kilos, right? And I open it up because I've written 4x tomato, 4x cucumber, blah, 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 blah. They've given me 4 times the standard amount of tomato, 4 times the standard amount of cucumber. Now, for those of you and people that work at Subway can probably attest to this, a normal foot-long sub will come with 6 slices of tomato, 6 slices of cucumber. So me asking for 4 slices would be, you know, actually getting 2 slices less. I've gotten 4 times 6 slices of tomato, 4 times 6 slices. That's 24 slices of tomato, 24 slices of cucumber. No wonder this thing weighed 2.5 kilos, right? Massive stitch up. Like, I'm like, what the fuck is this? And it's like all flopping everywhere. And anyway, I had the shits that day. But yeah, like this is one of the things that, you know, you can be specific, but you got to be ultra specific sometimes because that was a stitch up. The guy stitched me up when I wrote 4x tomato, 4x cucumber.
I'd walk past you if you wanted to order something. We got a bloke, a family, brother and sister I work with, Brad and Zoe. They do the same thing. They got all these specific orders. I'm like, what does it matter if there's this in there? Just eat it. They go, nah, mate, we're not having that. I'm like, I don't like going to order for you guys.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think that there's something about that though. Like I sort of view like that as being like analogous to life, in the sense that there are so many people in this world that don't really know what they want, so they never ask for it. But then they're happy to complain about it when they don't get it. So it's like if you aren't specific about the outcome that you want, but you want to complain about it, you don't really have a right to complain about it because you weren't specific in the first place. Whereas because I've been specific in terms of what I wanted, if it's not right, at least I have a right to go. I feel like people might say I'm entitled, but I go, no. If I ask for something specific, like I am spending my money to get something, it's like, when you go and buy anything, you buy a car, and if you want something specific, you buy ordering a new car. Of course, you'd be upset if things don't turn out the way that you want it to be, especially if you're outlaying a lot of money, right? So I guess it's the same thing would apply in terms of people's health and fitness goals. If they're not specific about what they want, but then they want to complain, oh, I'm not in shape. Well, hang on, let's define what is in shape.
For you, it's different to someone else again.
Right? And so that's why I say there's a little bit of a story behind that, and that's analogous to life, that the more specific you are about your goals, the more specific you can be about the steps that you need to take to get there.
100%.
Right? And so you'd see that all the time in nutrition and especially in PTing and all that sort of stuff, right? Where there'd be clients where it's like, they'd say, oh, this is the goal that I want to reach. But then it's like, they might see you through and say, oh, it's not working. And it's like, well, hang on a second. How strict are you following what I'm saying, right?
Well, that's the beauty of working with athletes.
That's true.
It's a different demographic.
Yeah.
Everyone's driven.
Yeah.
Everyone knows they've got a fight coming up in 4, 6, 8 weeks. They're going to get kicked in the head, or they're trying to kick someone in the head.
Yep.
So they're a lot more compliant.
So
a lot more on point.
When did you make that switch?
When I really started zoning in on dietetic, when I started the performance dietitian exclusively. So before it was blended with my PT business.
Yep.
And I got a job at the Wharves when my first son was born.
Yep.
Which was about almost 4 years ago now.
Yep.
And then I was like, hey, let's start combat sport. I started doing Muay Thai. I started doing all this sort of stuff, and that's when I was able to just focus on athletes because I had another stream of income. That's a good paying job that allows me to say no to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Or whoever I don't want to work with, it's a luxury.
Yeah.
Which you can't afford if you're trying to build your business at the beginning,
Yeah.
And that's what allowed me to really have my niche, be a so-called expert at this, because this is majority of my work,
Yeah.
So it's a blessing at the same time. And I do have young dietitians coming through, always chatting to me, and they're like, oh, how do I get a niche? How do I get a niche? I go, first you need to get good at a lot of stuff, because can you afford to say no to money?
Yep.
And a lot of people can't,
Yeah.
I'm not saying no to money, but in a big picture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I love that. Actually, let's talk a little bit more about that, because I think a lot of people get this misguided look and they go, okay, look at what Kristof's doing. I'm just going to do that. But then they don't realize that, hey, so you were working another job at the Wharves to basically allow you to work on this thing and focus specifically on this niche.
Exactly that.
Whereas a lot of the times, if you're trying to do it to make a living, it's like, well, you're turning away money by saying no to all these other clients, right? And it's a very difficult thing to do, especially if you need that money, and because you're not doing something else.
And again, if you bring them on board, you always want to do your best with everyone. So you're going to have to research how to help that started population. Potentially they come in with some kind of disease, some kind of health problem, because the healthy don't always come to see the dietitian. It's always usually someone that's something wrong, whether it's diabetes, whether it's cholesterol, whether it's usually you're trying to fix stuff, or help them, Whereas the healthy don't really come see you. Whereas in this sport, in combat sports, everyone's pretty healthy already when they come in to see you. Yeah, you got different kind of stuff you got to address. But if you're taking on more clients with different problems, and then you spend time researching that, how to help them the best, takes time away from you, helping you focus on your specific population that you really, really want to work with.
So let's digress and talk about the Wharves a little bit, because I'm sort of curious, what was the job like? What did you do? And I guess, were there any sort of learnings that you took away from that line of work?
The Wharves. 300 blokes I work with mainly. There's about 5 girls. Yeah. So it's a very male-dominated environment. A lot of swearing, a lot of honest conversation. Yeah. So it's a great job. I really enjoy it. I can go there, not think as much, talk a lot of shit with people and have a laugh. Yeah. And get paid well for it. Yeah. I'm still there. Yep. I don't think I'll give it up. The union is strong. Yep. And it's a good job. When I first started there again, I was never a fish out of water, but I got a big mouth. I'm always smiling. I'm laughing. My laugh is huge. Like you can hear it from the other side of the room. So people were turning heads. Who is this guy? Who's
Yeah.
this guy? When in reality, I just laugh at myself, man. Like, I'm not laughing at others. I can have a good time, you know.
Yeah.
And that was a learning curve of how to try and turn that down. Didn't happen. Didn't work. So I guess people just got used to me.
Yeah.
Being silly and being an idiot, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm almost 4 years there now. I enjoy it. I got a couple of, not promotions, but you went from the bottom. So at the beginning, all you're doing is it's called lashing. You put these bars on the containers and you tie them to a ship. So it's physical work. I
Okay.
did that for almost 2 years exclusively. So every day you're getting smashed at work doing that, which was good. And then soon you become a team leader. You're leading the teams doing that, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And again, it's a different type because you got to lead 10, 11 people. You got to tell 10, 11 men what to do. Different conversations, different approaches. You can't just be the same authority and kind of guy, you know.
Yeah.
You got to have a laugh. You go, boys, let's do this. Let's try get out of work, you know, stuff like that. You're always trying to do minimal.
Yeah. Well, it's also about, you're balancing what their sort of relationships are with you as well.
Yes.
You know, so you got to have that, be able to command some respect, but at the same time, you don't want to be a dick about it. Because,
100%.
you know, happy workers are actually going to do better.
Exactly.
Right? And you don't need friction every time that you want to get something done.
100%. And you got to remember that not everybody likes working.
Yeah.
Everyone's having bad days. Everyone has shit days. So you can't be angry at someone when they're not putting in what you expect. Hey, don't expect nothing from no one.
Yeah.
And you'll never be disappointed, man. And when they do, you give them a good, hey, well done.
Yeah.
And then, hey, maybe that makes them feel good when they're walking away. Hey,
Yeah.
I did all right today.
Yeah.
Rather than, why didn't you do this? Hey, you should have done this. Nah, none of that, man.
Yeah.
Everyone's a grown man. You do your own work.
Yeah. No, fair. Okay. So, was it almost like a bit of a relief when you start working this wharf job so that you can then focus more, like niche down so heavily in terms of...
It came at the right time, man.
Yeah.
It came at the perfect time. So,
were you looking for something for a while, or was it just
so at the wharf, you usually only family can get you in. And
Okay.
my wife's dad works there, so my father-in-law works there, and that's how I got the job.
Yeah.
And it was a throwaway comment when I was on my first year of masters. They go, hey, Kristof, there's a wharf job coming up if you'd be interested in. And I was like, me working hard at the wharf's like, you know what I mean? I work with my mouth, not that way. But I'm a PT. I like to talk. That's the sort of work. I was like, look, man, I don't know if this is the right thing for me. I'm not really a hard worker. And then when I got there, I realized, hey, my base level of work ethic is a lot harder than other people's base level of work ethic. So I was a hard worker. I was like, that's a surprise. I can run around people here.
Yeah.
And it came at the right time. It came exactly when my son was born, which allowed me to have a steady income to provide for the family. Took a lot of stress off, so I didn't have to chase, because I think I was in the PT business for 12 years by then.
Yeah.
So you're always chasing. You fill up the bucket, some drop off, fill up the bucket, some drop off. So
and it's seasonal too, right? Like
look,
coming up to
I
summer.
ran a good business, so we had a lot of long-term clients. We were making money. It was great. But again, you always had to chase. And then the wharf job just come and I was like, imagine that relief. I don't have to chase again for a bit. And it gives you a good level of comfortable living. And if you want, and back then I did not know nutrition after my master's for about 9 months. I wanted nothing to do with it. I think I don't know what happened. My head just was switched. I didn't want nothing to do with this.
Really?
Yeah. I think we're going through, my wife was pregnant. There was just a lot going on in life. So I couldn't really focus on starting a business or what I want to do with it. And then all of a sudden, one time it just clicked back and the motivation was back even stronger than ever before. The fire was burning. I was like, this is what I've been missing. I've been like, where was this for the last 9 months?
Yeah. I think that's normal though. I think everybody goes through these phases where, motivation can struggle or sometimes you just need time out.
I think that's what it was. I think I needed time away from it. I pushed. So in my undergrad when I was in year 4 or 5, second last year, I started listening to this podcast and they're talking about dietitians. I was like, fuck, man. I think I can do these masters sort of stuff. Well, you never expected when I was growing up. I was like, man, I'm going to apply for the masters, Yeah. That means you need to be, I call them super nerds. You need to be a super nerd when you're doing your masters. So I went to masters, I walked into a class and I was like, super nerds, here they are.
Well, you're one of them now.
I was. And the funny thing was I was trying to, I'm going to call it, I was undercover nerd.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That's what I was saying. Like I come in TNs and a tracksuit. Everyone's like, is this guy lost in this class?
Yeah.
I'm like, what mark did you get in your exam, man? Yeah, that's right. They're all than me. Respect.
Out of curiosity, what was like the other people that were doing this course as well? Were they all from PT backgrounds or what were they?
No, they were just young kids. So I come at 30 I was almost when I started my masters. So people high school, undergrad,
and then straight
masters.
into.
So I guess what I found was a lot of them had no experience in life. You know?
Yeah.
So I'm guessing some of them might have been doing this because they don't know what they want to do.
Yeah.
You get me? Whereas I've done a lot of shit.
Yeah, and you've already had some experience coaching clients and doing all
And
that
I
sort
know
of
what
stuff.
I want to do. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
That's why I think, again, I didn't need that internal motivation to get good marks or to learn because, hey, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Not that, hey, I don't know what I'm going to do, so I'm just doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like there's almost too much undue pressure on trying to have your life worked out when you finish school. Like
100%. 100%. That's why I said my ideology, I just want to party for the next 4 years and then see what happens. And
yeah.
fortunately for me, it worked out.
No, look, I think it's a great way to do things, like not necessarily partying, but like just taking some time to actually reevaluate what it is that you want. Like
And
I
do
feel
everything. Do a lot of stuff. Get experience.
try different stuff.
100%.
Because there's so many, like, I've got friends who went into the corporate world after uni and, you know, they spend all this time in corporate and then they, like even my wife is an example of that. So she was working for one of the big four, auditor, you know, if she just stayed there, she'd be on the pathway to, you know, make partner one day, do all that sort of stuff, like what most people that enter that corporate world are trying to get to. But she also realized, hey, you know, at some point, this wasn't the life that she wanted to live. You know, when you have family, when you have all these things, like, yeah, it's, you can say, oh, the money's great or whatever, but you got to make that decision. Okay, what's actually important in your life? You know, is the money the most important thing? Is that how you measure success? Are you measuring your success based on what society thinks success is? Or is your success measured by something different? Is it what you actually internalize success?
100%. That's another conversation with people, you know?
Yeah, it's like, so I'm curious about from your perspective, right? Because I feel like a lot of people measure success based on what are the common things, you know, and they're all material things, you know, how big the house is, what kind of a car you got, like all these sorts of things. A lot of people measure success on these material things. What is your definition of success? And I guess how's that sort of evolved over the years as well?
Being happy, being fulfilled, I guess. Having that other reason to do something, you know? Like you said, everyone likes the houses, the cars, but one of my friends, I always have this conversation with Zab, and he loves traveling and living life that way. Yeah. He goes, this is for me, this is success and happiness, is having nothing to tie me down, having the freedom to go wherever. And so I was like, oh, wow. Like, you know, before I used to think, hey, it was getting the job, getting the house, getting the car, that was success. And then that really opened my mind that, hey, man, it's all about being happy and doing whatever you want with your time. That's number one, I think. So if I want to spend it coaching people, talking to clients, that's my choice. I don't have to, I want to, you know?
Yep. Yeah, it's a very interesting thing that...
Spending your time how you want it, that's really success. Yeah. And whatever you want, everyone floats different boats, you know?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like it's like once you find some success in life, like I guess what society determines as success, then you start to realize that it doesn't really change your life that much. No. Like, you know, you either get on that treadmill and you keep chasing and you go, okay, now I need to get a boat. Now I need to, you know, like you sort of go down that pathway. I need to get the jet ski. Or you realize that, hey, okay, this doesn't, you know, change my life that much.
And maybe doing overtime takes another day away from my kids when they're at home, you know, so what's the point?
Right, those things that seem like fun aren't so fun when, you know, you have to do all the maintenance and look after all these things and you only get to use them once a week or once a month. 100%. It's like, why do I own, like, I think I was reading this, I think it was a saying, it's like, you know, having a boat is great, but having a friend with a boat is even better.
100%.
Right? Like, why have the boat if I've got a mate that's got a boat? Yeah. Because then I don't have to worry about maintaining it, keeping it clean and all that sort of stuff. Let him worry about that and we just go out on his boat.
100%.
All right. So let's go back to then your when you started transitioning into focusing more on combat sports athletes. So what made you start martial arts in the first place?
So I come from a bodybuilding background. I competed in IFBB. I've done all that sort of stuff. So I was always loving structure. Yep. Never liked cardio. Yep. And then instead of running, I was like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to come do a bit of Muay Thai, and that's instead of my cardio. And I come in, I was like, wow. So this is what I should have been doing instead of lifting weights for the last 10 years. Instantly, I knew that within a month because I always watched UFC. I always loved it. I loved fighting. I loved everything about it. I just never did it. I just pumped weights, looked massive, looked shredded for stereo, you know, that sort of stuff. That's my generation. Yeah. So when I stepped in and done a bit of Muay Thai, I was like, wow, this is it, man. This is the calling. I love this. Yeah. And then I went from, instead of running twice a week, I'm going to do this. And then I was like, hey, I'm here every fucking night now. Now, where do I fit in my weights? Yeah. You know, I really, really enjoyed it. And over there, I knew one of their fighters there. I had a couple of parties with him when I was growing up. And I was like, hey, man, he goes, what's happening? And he was actually prepping for a fight. I was like, look, I'm a dietitian. Hey, would you mind letting me help you for this fight? because I knew the theory, I just never done it in practice. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And then that kicked it off, man.
Yeah.
And then from there we had success. And then that whole SRG team, you know.
Yep.
I've made good relationships there. I still work with a lot of the fighters there. Shout out to SRG. They're awesome. And that gave me my first platform of a whole team that I'm working with. And then it just grew from there. I guess being from the areas that I live, eastern suburbs, I was always out. I have a lot of people that I know. I went to this gym, talked to a couple of people, went to this gym. Hey, my mate's a coach here. And then I picked up a few bits and pieces. Of course, I met up with Renato. I chased him down on Instagram during lockdown, actually.
Yeah.
And he was living in Kensington. So I went for a coffee one day. I was like, look, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to be in the next 5 years.
Yep.
And our vision kind of aligned, man. You know, we want to be the best at what we do in the world. We want to be with successful teams. So that lined up, and the rest is history, man.
Well, it's one of those things for you. You work across a whole bunch of different teams, right? Like, so you work with the Eagles boys as well. And I guess from that, you know, once people see that your clients are getting good results, they go, oh, hey, what are you doing? And then that sort of spreads through word of mouth as well, correct?
Look, I think in combat sports, a different thing between getting good results. You know, everyone can make weight. So I don't know, like in black and white terms, yes, making weight is the good result. But how you deal with the person, how they're making weight is the actual good result. You know, I don't see many people missing weight. And when they do is that's when it's the bad result. But so a lot of people are making weight, but whether they're making it the right way, like I talked to people and I was like, wow, can't believe what you've done in the past, and this is going to be a game changer for you. Yeah. And most of the messages for the first time athletes that are working with me, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I can eat this. Can't believe I ate so much. This is the best cut I've done in 29 fights. One of the messages was the other week. Wow. And I was like, 29 fights, like.
And you've just been sciencing it the way.
Yeah, and look, she's a high level competitor, so she's awesome. And like to get a message like that from someone that's high up in the pros, and this is the best one I've done in 29 fights, 29 cuts, I was like, fuck, we're on the right track here. Yeah. And again, being around the right people, doing the right things, being around the right people. Word of mouth is the one that goes in this industry. Of course, again, I'm good friends with Ethos. So again, I was trying to chase Ethos for a bit, and you know, everyone's busy, and then I got a couple of guys that was working with me, and that sparked their interest. So they reached out, we had a coffee, and then the rest is history. You know, they know I'm doing good work with people. They're happy to refer me people. Yep. And same goes to everyone else. Yeah. Well, it goes back to those pillars, right? Like, so they're working on the exercise side in terms of performance, recovery, and then you come in with the nutrition side of things, and it just sort of all works hand in hand. Completes the picture, man. Yeah. Completes the picture, and 100%, man. Taking care of everything, and that's the kind of team you need to have around you if you want to make it big in this sport. You need to have your coaches that are good, that you can put trust in. You need to have your strength and conditioning sorted, I believe. If 100% is injury prevention, I think is the biggest thing for strength and conditioning. Yeah. Especially what I learned from coming from a bodybuilding background to this. I was like, injury prevention is number one. Yeah. And getting your nutrition sorted, man, and having that, everything set up like that, you can go far. Yeah. Can we, let's nerd out a little bit, because I'd like to talk about different protocols. Right, so I'll do my best. You do your best, yeah. Well, you're super nerd in disguise, right? Yeah, I'm undercover nerd, undercover nerd. So let's talk a little bit about bodybuilding. All right, sure. So let's start with there, and then we'll move into combat athletes. So protocols for bodybuilding athletes, right? So let's say, I don't know, if you've got a comp coming up, and what's the normal timeline for a camp to a bodybuilding? 16 weeks. 16 weeks. 12, 16 weeks. Depends how you walk around, but call it 16 weeks. So if somebody wanted to have that if they had that as their goal, I guess, you know, and obviously we're just talking very general sort of things here, but just to give people an idea in terms of like, what are the things that you'd be advising them, and what should they be doing throughout each of those stages? And obviously, you know, if that piques somebody's interest because they're in that bodybuilding space, obviously, you know, reach out to Kristof to get something more detailed and specific to you. Potentially. I like combat sport athletes these days, guys. Okay, if you're very fortunate and Kristof you'll 100% get a reply. You'll 100% get a reply. But whether he wants to. Yeah. Whether take you on is a different story, but yes, you can pick my brain about anything. I'm always happy to share my knowledge with everyone on Instagram and on any platform. If you've got questions around nutrition, how to improve yourself, I'm always free to talk. Okay. All right, well, let's start with the bodybuilding athlete, and then we'll move into a combat sports athlete. No worries. So 16 weeks out, the idea behind bodybuilding is get as shredded as you can, and it basically involves a lot of training and a lot of suffering. You don't really need to focus on performance as much as you need here, because that's the only sport in the world where on show day, you're probably your weakest if you've done everything right.
Yeah.
Whereas here, you need to, in other sports, you need to perform, you need to get high intensities, everything like that. Whereas in bodybuilding, you just need to be as shredded as you can in an unhealthy way.
Yeah.
So health is out the window. If you're looking at bodybuilding and trying to be healthy at the same time, you're doing your best. But when you get into the deeper stages of the prep, it's all going to come crumbling down. And it's good to be aware of that before you even embark on this journey. You need to have your potential eating disorders sorted. You need to have everything sorted. You need to have everything into consideration, because it happens. It happened to me while I was learning about it at uni. So I was like, hey, this is a clear sign of an eating disorder. Hey, this is a clear sign. And it was nothing big. It was something like, if I ate off the plan, I made sure I done like a 5K run in the morning. It sounds simple, but if you're doing that over, like, hey, if I eat another one tomorrow, I'm going to do a 10K run. You know, it's an unhealthy cycle that you start getting into, and that's one of the signs of an eating disorder.
Yeah.
So yeah, what we usually do, figure out your maintenance calories. I'd like to do everything in a step-by-step approach. So we'd go potentially minus 10% or 15% of a deficit for 2 weeks, then 20 to 25% deficit for another 2 weeks, and 35% for the next 2 weeks. So that's 6 weeks sorted. And on week 7, instead of coming back to your maintenance, we'd probably drop your maintenance by, again, 10 to 15. So we always go 1, 2, 3. And then the second cycle, we start with 1, where the second one was. So we're always getting deeper and deeper and deeper, and seeing how much you can handle. It's a lot about, I call it starving. You got to get good at starving. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, like I see some bodybuilders now and they're eating like not much calories. When I did it, I was on 2,200 calories, my lowest, and I was starving to death. Like I couldn't handle it anymore. And what you're doing is I worked with a coach. Shout out to Rodan Dubois, the Dubois method. It's been a long time, mate. I hope you're well. He gave me good protocols. So we had cardio in the morning. By the end of the stages, we had cardio in the morning an hour. You're lifting for 90 to 2 hours, and then a cardio at night. So that's 4 hours of training a day, plus on, say, a 30, 35, 40% deficit, whatever it needs to be to get you to the next level. Yeah. And, of course, the rest, the extra supplements. Yeah.
So can we talk a little bit about like peptides and SARMs? Do you know much about that sort of stuff, or?
Not really.
Not really? So you don't focus on that? You focus more on the actual, like, you know, real food?
Yes. We know the peptides, we know the SARMs, but not enough research in the SARM industry anyway. Yet. So you might as well do real steroids that got hundreds of years of research, 100 years of research, not hundreds. So at least you know what side effects you're going to get. Yeah. Rather than wait down 50 years and, hey, you lost a nut.
Well, it's true.
Or some vision.
It's a really interesting thing, that whole space, you know, because bodybuilding is one of those, like everybody's on it, right? Like, and if you want to get the results, that's what everybody does. It's very difficult to do it as a natural athlete and compete on those big stages.
Look, I don't know. With natural athletes, you want to be the biggest small guy. Even the natural powerlifting, you want to be the strongest weak guy. Yeah. Come on, man. Let's up the dose.
All right, and this is an advertisement for them. It's just to,
and I know nothing about them, guys. I don't work with them sort of people.
Yeah, fair. Okay. When it comes to like, so as an example, what types of food to eat? You know, do you normally advise people? So like, do you have athletes come to you and say, hey, I want to do this, but I want to do it vegan, or I want to do it carnivore, or do you? Are we
talking bodybuilding or back to other sports?
Okay, so is there a so what's the difference between the two?
I never worked with many bodybuilders. Okay. So I never did preps for other people. I just prepped myself. Okay. So nowadays with current athletes, yes, some people come to me as vegan, vegetarians, yes. Yep. Pescatarians, yes. And you just work the diet around there. Okay. Like, look, a lot of people got strong feelings why they're sticking to a way of eating, especially if it's a vegetarian or anti-meat or anti-animal product, you know? Yeah. I think it's going to be hard to change their opinion on that. Yeah. Because they wholeheartedly believe it's the right thing to do. So you got to do your best to work around that. Yeah. Whether someone comes to me with keto or something like that, again, it's a different conversation. You can actually tell them to try something. Yeah. And then they'll feel the results, especially with high intensity sport. Yeah. Making sure you're fueling properly for your workouts. Yeah. And then that sells itself. Have some bagel and jam before a workout, and then that sells itself. Yeah. Okay, so when it comes to combat sports athletes, you know, you will generally prescribe them food that you think is obviously going to provide them with a performance edge, correct? Yes, correct. And so how prescriptive are you with that? Like, is it like, okay, these are the things that I think you should be eating during the week, or is it like, you know, these are the calories we need to hit, these are the macros, or like, what's your approach? Whatever the person's approach is. Yeah. So if you want macros, we'll give you macros. If you want a structured plan, we'll give you a structured plan. If you want food options, you'll get food options. So for me, that's the way I work. I meet the client where they're at.
Okay.
I never force anything extra on you. I don't want to stress. I don't want my plan for you sticking to my plan to stress you out. My plan is to take that stress away from you. That's why you're paying me. Let me do the stressing. I just give you the things to follow. So everyone's different. I got some athletes that are following macros, and then of course I give really recommendations. Hey, pre-workout, try X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z. And majority of my people are on meal plans though. So I give them, hey, you'll have a heavy day meal plan or medium day meal plan, potentially a third day. Depends who you are. Depends your situation. Again, it could be one plan, could be 3 plans. Everyone's different. And again, this is your breakfast on this day, this is your breakfast on your other day, this is your lunch on this day, this is your lunch on the other day.
Yeah. And do you work with any meal prepping companies to facilitate that? Yep.
Yes. Whoever the client wants to work with again.
Okay.
I don't... Look, Mitch's meal is my homie.
Yep.
He does a great job. All his meals are tasty. Shout out to him. He doesn't specifically go for any niche.
Yep.
He just got generally healthy and lovely tasting meals. I've been with him since 2016. But I work with athletes, nutrition. I work with fit and healthy chef. We work with everyone, whatever the client wants again.
Yep.
So I don't... If they advise me, I'll go, here's the 3 options.
Okay.
Fit and healthy chef, Mitchell's meal, athletes nutrition. You pick whichever one you want.
Yeah, okay.
And if you want to come with Papa Macros or something else, again, we'll work that into your meal plan. I got no preference with anyone. That's why I think that's an edge of trying to meet people where they're at. I'm not forcing anyone down anyone's throat. So I had one of the gentlemen that I work with at the moment, he goes, I didn't want to come see you again because I heard that your diets are hard. I go, what's hard? Like, just because someone said it's hard, maybe it was hard for them to stick to. Maybe, like you said, they didn't prescribe their goals clearly.
Yeah.
And that's why it was hard. Eh?
Yeah.
And at the end of our consultation, I just gathered that the bloke really wanted to have oats for dinner every night. Yeah. And a meal prep for dinner. I was like, was that hard? I'll give you oats for dinner and a meal prep for...
What's the oats for dinner?
I mean, no, oats for dessert before bed, and then a meal prep company for dinner. But that was his non-negotiable, and he was afraid that I can't work that in there. Okay. And I was like, man, I can work whatever you want in there. If you want Nutella, we can work Nutella in there. If you want chocolate, we can work chocolate in there. Yep. But when it comes down to crunch time, when you're 3-4 weeks out, I will give you, hey, this Nutella that you're really enjoying right now. Instead, we could have X, Y, Z, and it will give you this performance-enhancing benefits or recovery benefits. So you should consider it, changing it out. And by that time, I've already built the trust. We're already getting the results. They're like, yes, 3 days, no worries. And I was like, hey, this isn't forever. After the next phase, bang, we can put it back in if this is what you really, really enjoy.
So have you got any, and you don't have to name athletes or anything here, but I'm just curious, if you could share one great success story of a great weight cut and a great sort of prep. And maybe if there's any horror stories, as I said, don't name anyone, but I guess, examples of where that might have gone wrong and what might have gone right in the good example as well.
Look, success stories, it's always a success story. That's what I like to say. If we made weight and we've done it in a smiling and a healthy way, there's been hard ones, but all the good ones, yes. Like I mentioned before, this is the best cut in 29 cuts. I was amazed. And she wanted to do a bigger cut than I usually do, but hey, she's got 28 cut history. Who am I to take away your whole strategy that you've used successfully for 28 cuts? Here's the conversation again, that I'll meet you where you're at. And then again, we conversate, we go, this is what I think, what do you think? And we work it out together. We put this plan out together, what you've done previously. And that was a good success story. She made the weight, it was no problem. With girls, there's always a problem. Yeah. With females.
Can we talk about that? Because I think, that's probably something that's often overlooked in terms of female combat sports athletes, right?
I'm not saying it's always a problem, but I'm always expecting something to go wrong these days with all my female athletes. And something wrong, there's nothing wrong. It's the normal.
The cycle goes up and down, right?
It's what your body does. So it's completely normal. But when things are going really well, I'm expecting something to be just around the corner, like your period coming just the day before fight week and your weight shot up 2-3 kilos. These are the things that I'm learning that, hey, it's going to come every time, and this is what we're going to have to be ready for. And again, the approaches we take, we get history with clients, so we know how to handle. A lot of it is talking them off the cliff. They think, hey, man, it's going to be all right. Give it a couple of more days. Everything's going to be all right.
Let it settle.
Yes, and it does. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it does. And often we don't have to make too many changes. If we do, I don't like making too many changes based on their period, because I don't think the research is developed enough to make nutrition recommendations depending on where their cycle is. But again, when it's coming down to crunch time, when it's a few days before fight week, when fight week starts, that's when it's like, oh man, what are we going to do here? Yeah. And again, I'm learning too, so I'm learning too, man. I'm learning about every female everyone's got different symptoms that they get with it. So it's again working and talking, a lot of communication, man.
And I think the longer that you work with a specific athlete, the more sort of history you have, so that
100%.
you can see what the trends are, right?
And you can expect it now. Like I know one of my clients, something's always going to go wrong. You know what I mean? And we're doing so well, and oh yeah, it's coming, and I'm ready for it. You know what I mean? And she's ready for it.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about.
Wait. Well, let's go bad cuts.
Yeah, let's go bad cuts.
No real bad cuts yet, but when people don't do what you tell them to do. So hey, when I ask you to do something, especially during that fight week, or especially a day before the acute weight loss phase when you need to sweat it out, you need to get it done. Like I'm very easygoing, and I've let people bludgeon it, and then it ended up being harder than we wanted it to be. Whereas hey, if you listen to me, what I asked you the day before, for example, the day before I asked you to get to this weight, and then you were 700 grams over, and all right, I was 700 grams over, Kristof. I was like, don't worry about it. You know what I mean? All good. Like I'm not gonna.
You don't want to stress them out when they go.
Sergeant, man. Yeah. Like sweet, don't worry, we'll sort it out tomorrow. And then, for example, the next day they booked a sauna, but up in Queensland you have a limit on your sauna, so they only had an hour. And then in an hour she was sweating, and then she needed another 20 minutes. And then she goes, they won't let me do another 20 minutes. I go, what do you mean they don't let you do another 20 minutes? We need another 20 minutes right now because you're already sweating. You know, this is it. She goes, nah, they're not letting me. And I was like, well, what are we going to do now? And then, all right, we go home. She goes, oh, I'm going to have only a shower. There's no bath. All right, have a hot shower and do this. All right, no worries. She has a hot shower, but then she just lies in bed and tries to sweat it out. I was like, hey, she made it, all good. But hey, if you did hit that 700 grams the night before,
you would have done it.
We wouldn't have needed that extra 20 minutes of sauna. You would have been sorted. Hey, if we had that extra 20 minutes of sauna, you wouldn't have needed to do that shower.
Yep.
And then to make that last bit, hey, if you did the shower instead of trying to sweat it out in a burrito like I asked you, then you wouldn't have stressed that extra 5-10 minutes in your head because it was all stressed by then. You wouldn't have needed to stress. So if we'd done the 3 things that I asked, it would have been smooth as, but you didn't. And that's why we had to chop and change, try and not save it, but because they're well in range and we weren't pushing no limits, but it could have been so much easier than stressing about it if you follow the instructions.
Have you had any people where you've had to say, hey, let's not do, actually you have, because Coach Howe talked about that specific athlete that, had to lose a lot of weight, and you said, hey, I don't think we should do this.
Yes.
What sort of informs that? Like, so do you look at it from, is it too much of a percentage of body weight to lose, or like how do you sort of put those decisions together?
Yes, too much of a percentage of body weight to lose, yes. Potentially your body fat levels as well, body composition, your history of cuts. Like I said, some people can cut amazing weights and they've done it before and it makes me uncomfortable. And I tell them that instantly. I go, hey, first time we do it, and the second time, hey, if you want to keep working with me, we're going to have to bring this number down. I'm not here to push the envelopes that way. I don't want to stress, man. Like, I don't get paid enough to, you know what I mean, to actually stress and be scared for your health. That's not what my practice is about. So we need to pull those couple of kilos down, which means you're going to have to change your walk around weight by a couple of kilos. So you need to have more structure. But what determines that is, yes, what their history of how many cuts they've done, how much weight they comfortably can lose. A lot of athletes these days got everything written down for you prior to working with them. And I recommend everyone that's ever doing a cut to, hey, know what your weight was 6 days before, the night before in the morning, know what it was 5 days before, so you can go through every cut and see where you are. So you can see, hey, I'm only 200 grams heavier, I got nothing to stress about because 3 cuts ago I was 500 grams heavier and I made it pretty well, you know? If everything's consistently similar, then you got nothing to worry about, and at least you got the data there that shows the
data's so important. Even like, so, when you do that first sauna session, you need to know 20 minutes in the sauna, what's that going to do for your weight? How much are you going to lose in that 20 minutes?
Yes.
Obviously, not all saunas are equal, like some are hotter than others or whatever, but at least if you have that data to go and say, okay, I know that in 20 minutes I'm going to lose 500 grams or 700 grams. And it's like, okay, so that's the first one. And the second one, maybe I only lose 500 grams, as the body starts to want to hold on to the water a little bit more. But having that data just provides you with like that confidence, feedback, right?
And more confidence you doing it. Another one I had was, I had this athlete who had to lose about 10 kilos in 8 weeks, 9 weeks. So it was a same day weigh-in though. And he came in a little bit more on the chubbier side. So I was like, yeah, sweet, I think we can do this. And then 5 weeks in, his dick skin shredded and we're still 5 kilos over.
Wow.
And I was like,
I can't do this.
I can't do this. Like instantly I told him, I go, man, you're going to have to, lucky it's not MMA, it's Taekwondo, so you can nominate yourself to a different division. I said, you need to nominate yourself to the heavier division, man. Like you got luck. This was his body fat.
Yeah.
Like his
Just
sub
skin.
8 was like under 35 mils, which is like you're shredded, man.
Mm.
And hey, the fat loss worked really, really, really well.
Yeah.
You know, like that was unexpectedly well.
Yeah.
He held all his muscle, everything was down. But I was like, man, you're 5
too
kilos
muscular.
over, and we're not going to lose 5 kilos of muscle, man.
Mm.
And even if you, as you know, for same day weigh-ins, you don't cut big weight.
No.
You do 1 or 2%. So we could potentially put 2 kilos of water. It should be 1.5, but let's say 2 kilos, but you're still 4 kilos away from that.
Yeah.
And that's just going to be starving. So I told him, man, let's just do a different division. You're young. It's not worth it.
Yep.
And going forward, this is a conversation you need to have. I asked him, well, when was the last time you made this weight? He goes, about 2.5 years ago. I was like, well, now you're 21.
Yeah.
Maybe you were a
You've
boy
grown.
then. Yeah, you're a boy then. You're becoming a man. You're training with ethos. You're putting on muscle.
Mm.
So this is the conversation we need to have. Hey, going forward, if you want to go in this division, your training needs to change. But again, not potentially, you are still young, and potentially you're going to be limiting your growth.
Mm.
If we're going to be in a deficit for X amount of time, I go, why would you want to lose your hard-earned muscle? And you can focus on skill development and making yourself a better athlete if you just go to the higher division rather than the lower one.
Yep.
So it's a conversation between the coaches, me, everyone.
Yeah.
Hey, let's pick a different division because, hey, he's outgrew this one, man.
Yeah. So with the younger athletes, is that something that you always have in the back of your mind that, hey,
100%.
this person might still be able to grow?
100%.
So
Not
let's,
might.
yeah.
Not might.
Yeah. So you'd often advise them, hey, rather than go down a weight division, let's go up. And
yes. So I work with some teens, and again, it's always a constant conversation. They go, hey, we're going to make this. I was like, all right, now, yes. Next one, no.
Yeah.
Oh, but my coach was, well, let me get on the jump on the
coach.
Let's just have if he's a normal person, you know what I mean? You want your athlete's best interest in your heart.
Mm.
So everyone's open for conversation from another expert,
Mm.
Let's work together.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe we'll do the next 2 at this bigger weight, but for the title, we'll come down for it again. You know what I mean? Like, there's ways around it.
Yeah.
But you never want to be putting, especially someone young, into a deficit for long.
Mm. Have you ever, had any friction points with coaches where it's like they don't want to listen to what your contribution is?
Not me specifically, but I told the athlete, do this, do that, and then it didn't happen. They still had to go in the lower division, and that was 6 months ago. But then the athlete messaged me last week saying, hey, that was my last fight at that division, we're moving up. I was like, look at that. Finally, they're learning,
Yeah.
Especially with females. This was a female boxer,
Yeah.
amateur boxer. So you want to make sure they're not losing their cycle. God, they're 16, man,
Yeah.
There's a lot of growth and development to be doing.
Yeah.
And to be, let alone the constant pressure of training and being an athlete and eating right and sleeping right and school and TikTok and Instagram, making sure you're popular. You know what I mean? There's so much shit that's going on that already stresses them out. Imagine exacerbating that stress with a deficit as well.
Yeah. So when it comes to, I guess, longevity in the sport, right, is that now, obviously, I think, I sort of view doing massive weight cuts as being like almost like when people take too many shots to the head, right? Like there comes a point where your body just says, hey, no more.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So
I
you
honestly
agree with that?
believe so. I haven't experienced it yet.
Yep.
But I've advised people about it. I was like, listen, man, if you want to fight every 6 to 8 weeks, we can't be doing this big of a cut. You need to drop it by at least 2 kilos.
Yep.
Otherwise, a couple of years down the line, I think potentially your kidneys will take a hit. And that's going to be you in this sport, man.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, especially with the younger guys, right? Like people, they feel like they're in such a rush to get somewhere. I talk to some of the young guys, I'm like, mate, you're 19. I've got 20 years on you. Like,
You're still a boy.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, man strength? When are you going to get your man strength if you're already trying to make a division lighter?
Yeah.
You should be focused on growing into a division.
Yeah.
Especially at that age,
Yeah, that's right.
We're mid-30s. I don't know how old you are. I'm 34, basically.
39.
Yeah,
Old man here.
We're mid-30s, we're going to say. So you know what I mean?
Mid-30s. I'm nearly
You
40.
like that one?
I love that.
So for us, it is like we've done our growth,
Yeah, we ain't going to grow.
Yeah, so for us, it makes sense to be more of a deficit, staying lean year around, focusing on that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, well, from that perspective, like I and some teams are like this as well, where you always want to be within striking range, so that if you have, and I mean that in terms of weight, so that if there's a short notice fight or whatever, it's not going to be too much of a stretch for you to do that. If you stay fit and disciplined year round, it's obviously a lot easier to make those weight cuts and things like that. So
it's hard. It's hard to manage people's walk around weight. They're really got to be on point for at least a few weeks, if not month and a half post weigh-ins, because what I've found is the deeper the deficit we are, the longer it takes us to get back to normal.
Yeah.
So potentially we had to bring your weight down, we had to be in a deep deficit rather than putting them straight back to maintenance. I put them up a few percent of calories of where we were, just because I know their training schedule is going to be less intense, so they're not burning as many calories there. So I don't want to put them back straight there because they're just going to be storing fat because they stop training, not as intense. Their compliance is out the window anyway.
Yep.
So, like you said, to keep an striking distance, the bigger, the harder it was to make that weight. And to make that weight, I mean, come down in the weight where we cut from, the longer it takes us to get back to normal.
Yeah. And it's probably not even healthy for you to yo-yo up and down like really heavily, right? Like I guess there are plenty of there are athletes that will put on a lot of weight between fights, but that surely there's some negative health aspects from there, right?
And they know it.
Yeah.
And you all know it. You all know it when you blow out post-fight. And you all keep saying, I don't want to do this again, I don't want to do this again. But then you're not doing the work after it. Like, I just said that. You need to stick to another structure for another 4 to 6 weeks. So get it done. Otherwise, it's going to be, instead of a fight camp, it's going to be a fat camp again.
Yeah.
And that's not what you want, you know. You don't want to be coming in drained when you've got to train 2-3 hours a day. And that's what most athletes do, train 2-3 hours a day, if not longer. So if you're not getting fueled for that because you have to potentially make weight for another fight in 6 weeks, what are you doing? Like, reach out. Let's get this right.
Yeah.
Be more committed to it. I understand every single objection that you have. I've had it. I've been around the block. So I know what comes. I know life gets in the way. And I'm super understanding, man. I'm super understanding, but it's all about communication. If I tell you to stick to this plan or tell someone to stick to this plan post-fight, no, I never expect 10 out of 10 compliance. Not once.
Yeah.
It'd be nice.
Yeah.
But, hey, it's life, you know. But if you start bludgeoning and you're not saying anything about it and then, I just had an injury, so I only trained 4 days this week but still ate the same. I go, why didn't you reach out on Monday, man?
Yeah, let's just change it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one convo, man, and I can do it for you 10 minutes, maybe 2 minutes. Maybe I'll write you a quick message, hey, change this meal to this on Instagram, you know?
Yeah.
I don't even have to do the numbers because I already know them.
Yeah.
Or if it's some bigger change, like, look, man, this is what I'm about, man. Trying to help you with everything.
Yeah. Well, it's like from that perspective, yeah, when I did my fight last year, you know, we had a quick conversation. You were like, okay, do this. And it was just like, for me, it was fairly straightforward, just up my water intake. And then, you know, the cut was easy as, you know, only had to do one sauna session, 20 minutes, and I was pretty much on weight.
And look, and that was just from one small, you know, conversation of reaching out. That's why I said just before, like, if you got any questions regarding anything, just reach out. I'm happy to have a chat. But those that are working with me and want to work with me, like, understand that everything I advise you to do is for your best interest. It's not that I'm trying to be I was going to say the C word.
Yeah, a dick about it.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be a dick about it, man. I'm just trying to make you understand that, hey, potentially this will, not potentially, but hey, this will help you a lot going towards the future.
Do you look at, do you normally request athletes to do like a DEXA scan or something like that to look at their body composition?
Yes, it's good to get a DEXA scan. If you can't, if you're in Sydney, come get a pinch test.
Okay.
So
you do it.
Yeah. I do that sort of stuff. I really like it. I've been pinching people for 12 years from the bodybuilding days. I really enjoy it too. Yeah. It's fun. And yeah, DEXA scan or come do a pinch test is ideal. If you can get a BIA scan, you know, one of these ones here.
Oh, like body composition one.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Not for repeated results, but for an initial, we can work with it. But much rather prefer a DEXA or my skin folds. Yeah. I also get some people up on consultation. Once I figured out what they're eating, or I've asked about your diet history, see how much variety you got in your diet. Potentially, I'll get you to do a blood test, just to see where the vitamins are, see what things are. Yep. And we'll go from there.
So when it comes to supplementation, like, are there things that you normally recommend, where it's like vitamin D or
only if you're deficient?
Yep. Okay.
A lot of people take it for no reason, as in we're in Sydney, Australia. There's plenty of sun.
Well, not in winter. Like, everybody's rugged up, right?
Yeah, yeah. But in general, so again, get a blood test rather than just eating it for no reason. Yeah.
And I think from that perspective, that's one of the advantages of, I guess, with CSA. It is annoying that you have to, you know, get a serology every 6 months or whatever. But at the same time, when you get your serology, one of the things that I always do is I actually ask the doctor to get my free testosterone levels checked and all these different things checked, so that way at least I have a good little history to know, okay, how's my body at this point in time? You know, what are the changes that you're going through? Because, the results do fluctuate. Like, unfortunately, 100%. These things are just a snapshot. But
and from fight camp to fight camp, like, fight camp takes a hit on you. Like, no matter what, even if you like, all right, if you're fighting in the way you walk around, then it's not going to take a hit on you. Potentially the training load does, but if you need to make weight, do through a weight descent and then do a weight cut, it's going to take a toll no matter what, even on your hormones. That's just the normal part of it. Trying to minimize that problems is the goal, you know. And like you said, you got a history of serology, so you know what it is. It's good to know where you're starting each camp. I'm not saying get a blood test every camp, but it's good to stay on top of it all.
Yeah, and just when you have to get your serological done every 6 months anyway, you might as well ask for those extra panel of results.
That. And if you want to know what extra to get, hit me up, send me a message. I'll send you my little template that I've made up, which is a bit of information what you should be able to get, and then we can come and have a chat to interpret those results.
And then when it comes to like proteins and all that sort of stuff, like do you have a preference in terms of protein powder, like whether it's whey based or do you just work with whatever people want to have?
I work with whatever people want to have.
Yeah.
I work with CMBT Nutrition.
Yep.
I like them.
Shout out to Cell and Miles.
Yep. That's it. And they're testing all their supplements. They're awesome. Plant-based, easy to digest. But again, I meet everyone where they're at. So if you're potentially already sponsored by a supplement company,
yep,
whether it's a brand or a supplement shop,
yep,
we talk about it. Hey, is this the good one? Hey, is this not? Any WPI I'm happy with.
Yep.
Just make sure there's low carbs in it or not much carbs at all. Because what's the point of it? We can add it with food or fruits. Yeah.
And like, do you ever say to athletes, I know like from a protein perspective, a lot of people will take protein powders and things like that, but do you think they're a necessity? Or do you think, you can always...
Convenience.
It's convenience.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Again, unless you're vegetarian, where it's potentially a little bit harder to make up your daily protein intake, we have no problems eating steak and chicken here. Yeah. We're pretty good at that, especially red meat. Like it's Australia, man. We love it. We love a good barbecue.
Do you ever tell people you got to blend up the chicken in the water and down there?
And fish and rice cakes. That's all we eat. Bodybuilding style. No, we don't. But yeah, it's a convenience. If you're traveling to and from training, that's potentially a bit of a distance, so I put it there. Yeah. People like the taste, they like it with the oats in the morning. Yeah. Again, it's individualized. Yeah. If you want to have protein powders, we'll add it in. If you don't want to, we won't put one bit in.
So then when it comes to micronutrients, is that something that you look at from blood results and things like that, or is that more of you don't try and really worry too much about that side of things?
So the software that I use to calculate all the intake and all the nutrition that I do has all those in there. So I know what's our recommended daily intake, what's adequate, do I need to optimize anything throughout. It gives me a little table, and if it's up, it's green. Yeah. If it's not enough, it's red. Okay. So again, I'll make sure that it's matched to what you should be having. Again, this is much more difficult when you're in a deep cut. Yeah. Like, it's taking a toll, you know what I mean? Yeah. But to optimize your health, 100%, we need to look at all that. I'll do that through terms of food, potentially supplements. Again, we can recommend some, but this will all depend on our conversation during our initial consultation to see the variety of your foods. Yeah. Because a lot of people, not a lot, but a lot of people come, they just eat chicken, rice, any vegetables. Yeah, I eat carrot and broccoli. And that's all you get. Yeah. And then they eat that 3-4 times a day. And the next one is tuna and rice, and then potentially steak and rice. Yeah. So, all right, there's not enough vitamins and minerals. Let's make sure that we can supplement with X, Y, Z to make sure they get enough. Yeah, fair. But again, on that analysis, the software that I use, it gives me everything.
Yeah, okay. And then what about sleep? So do you normally talk to people about sleep as well?
Yes, it's definitely a conversation to have. Because not everyone, but again, many people have issues with sleep. So at the beginning of my practice, I was like, all right, we should sleep, just write that down. But I was like, why am I writing it down if I'm not making any recommendations or advising them on how to improve it? So again, I'm sure you're pretty educated.
Yeah, I got an Oura ring.
You're pretty educated. I got an Oura ring.
So I guess you
care about it.
Yeah, like it was one of those things that I think I for a very long time, especially when I was early in my career and I was working a lot as well. Sleep was the last thing on my mind. I was one of those, burn the candle at both ends, try and fit as much into my day as possible. So, train in the morning, work. If I could train at lunchtime, train at lunchtime. If I could train in the evening, train in the evening. And then, after you finish all that, come home and then you want to just muck around or play games or do something like that. And then, go to bed 12 midnight, 1 a.m. and then just wake up at 5 a.m. and do that rinse and repeat. Of course. And I think you can get away with it when you're young, but there comes a point, and I don't know exactly when this point happened, but there was a point in my life where I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm just so
Was it more you woke up a bit more anxiety and stressed, or was it just you were always tired?
What it was that, what I realized was that because I was working so much, I wouldn't get sick. But then what would happen is that anytime I had time off, that first week was a write-off. Like all those, like my body was just always on go mode. And then the moment that I'd have time off, my body wouldn't know what to do. And so that would be like when my parasympathetic nervous system would kick in. And then all those illnesses and all that we just never let in for that previous 6-7 months that I just
be a
weren't
rest
straight.
week and you're just trying to recover.
And I'm literally as an example, I'd go on a trip for work or whatever, and it'll be like a conference or something, right? First day of the conference, fine. The next day, no, and it's not even to do with alcohol or anything. I'd just be like, oh, I feel like I'm getting a sore throat, and then suddenly I'd have like a flu, really bad headache, and all that sort of stuff, and then I'd be like, geez, every time I take a holiday, I get sick that first week. And it took me a while to realize, this had probably happened for 2-3 years before I realized that, it's probably because, I'm always going, that the body's like, okay, we're going to go. And then the moment you slow down, it's like suddenly, okay, we can rest now. And it's like everything shuts off. Yeah, 100%. Immune system shuts off, everything. And then suddenly it's just like, okay, this is you're fucked. You basically have to recover now.
Regarding that work. So we're fortunate enough at the wharves to get every 8th week off from the job,
Yeah.
And that's this week. Remember, we tried to line this up on the last one. And that's what I feel like, because I push hard for those 8 weeks. I work everything. And then now I'm like, I should be training, and I'm like, I don't know if I can be bothered going. Let me just watch a TV just to, like you said, the parasympathetic nervous system potentially kicks in. And my last 8 weeks when I was sick the whole time, like you said, exactly the same thing. And I think it's the combination of not sleeping enough as well as working and pushing the boundaries,
Yeah. I think, and it's it's nice to have those, you got to put deadlines on things, right? So as an example, when I do my martial arts film studies and things like that, sometimes I'll stay up until 2 a.m. one night.
Because you're loving it.
Yeah, just trying to finish it, right? And when I'm close, then there'll be a night that I'll push, and I'll just stay up until it gets done. And I know it's going to wreck me the next day, but it's it's such a release to get to meet that and get it done.
It's mad.
That it's okay, now I can take some time off, right? And sometimes you get a bit lazy and you just I don't want to do it or whatever. It's not that I don't want to do it. It's just that I know that once I start, I'll be fine. But it's just getting started is the hard part. And then
I feel that a lot as well.
Yeah, but I'm also this kind of person where I don't like to have too many things hanging over my head. So it's if I've got this video to do, this thing to do, that thing to do, it's sometimes you get a bit overwhelmed, right? And that's when I feel like getting the right amount of sleep is actually better for your mental state.
Because potential supplements.
Yeah, well, it's just one of those things you wake up in a better with a better mood in terms of your approach to it. And I think sometimes so yesterday as an example was just almost like a write-off day for me, because we'd taken the kids to Vivid 2 nights in a row, so 2 late nights. The Sunday.
Busy or what?
Yeah, it was just, and a lot of walking. Right, and then with young kids, I had to carry them on my shoulders, and my back was sore, everything's hurting.
Old man,
literally,
mid-30s, man.
Felt like everything was hurting, and it's yesterday, woke up late, and it's okay, today's going to be a write-off. I'm not going to work on any of these things. I'm just going to keep it very simple. If I can just achieve 1 or 2 things, I'm going to be happy with that. Right?
But you set out the goals to achieve those 1 or 2 things. I like that.
Yeah, you can't get away with doing nothing.
100%.
Right? Because then all you're going to do is you're going to be burning that you did nothing anyway. But if it's just rejig what the acceptable standard is and just go, okay, this is all I'm going to achieve today.
I do the same thing. It's funny listening to this because I feel the same. I've got this much thing to do today. And then if it's getting late, I'm in the zone, man. I'm pumping. I was like, it's 11, it's 12. I could finish it in 2 hours, and I'm on the flow. I'm in the flow state. Everything's perfect right now. It's coming out of my finger.
Yeah.
But tomorrow I'm going to be smashed, man. So, like you said, move the acceptable
standard.
Yeah, for that day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's managing your time and your efforts and everything. I think it's very important.
Well, I think sleep is a discipline too. I think it's a very underlooked discipline, because people just, how often do we just mess around before it's time to go to sleep, where it's wherever you're on your phone or you just doing bullshit, really.
And how you said it took you a couple of years to recognize what was going wrong. Again, during fight camp, this is much more important than for a gen and pop.
Yeah.
Than for me or potentially for you if you're not fighting. You need to sort your sleep out as you're coming closer to the fight, because potentially that puts you puts you in a worse mood. It hits your cravings up, so you're craving more shit. Unideal. You're not losing as much weight as you should.
Yeah,
and everything starts going.
Well, even meals late at night. Can you speak about this? Because I think this is important, because I often find that if I eat late at night and I wake up early the next day, I'm hungry straight away. Whereas normally you have a big meal, and the next morning you should be fine to fast up until say midday as an example, because you just feel fine. But then when you're sleep deprived, I could eat a heavy pasta meal, something very carby. And I often find this with carbs, right? That if I have a big carb meal the night before, the next morning I'll wake up and I feel like I'm starving.
For me, I'm not 100% sure about all of this. But for me, I feel like my training load is what determines how hungry I wake up the next day,
Okay.
not the size of my meal. So if I push the envelope,
Yep.
I've done 2 big sessions or something,
Yep.
no matter how much I eat the next day,
Yep.
that night, I'm going to wake up starving the morning after as well.
Okay. Okay.
Regarding, yes, carbs are good before sleep.
Mm.
They promote sleep, they promote serotonin, so it helps you calm down at night and everything, and literally you're replacing your lost glycogen throughout the day, so you're ready to go the next morning.
Mm.
Why you're more hungry, I'm not too sure.
Okay.
I will check that out.
Okay. And then when it comes to like post-workouts and things like that, do you have any protocols that you normally like to recommend, or?
Regarding food,
Yeah.
nutrition, supplements,
Yeah.
again, there's always, depending on, again, it goes, yes, we do have recommendations. If you're training early in the morning, I'm more than likely to put a protein shake in there, something to help you start the recovery process and replacing that glycogen. Use glycogen earlier so you're prepped for your evening session.
Mm.
If you're only training once a day and you're training in the hour, I think I'd rather not put liquid calories in there for you. I'd rather make you have dinner and potentially a dessert.
Mm.
Would you like a dessert or a protein shake? Easy one.
Yeah. And then what about electrolytes? So what is
Yes.
your thoughts in terms of like rehydration and that side of things?
Important, yes. Like this one, I like to work out people's sweat rate.
Okay.
So
How's that calculated?
So we measure your body weight before you train.
Yep.
And then measure it again after you've dried up, after training, and as well as add to it how much fluids you consume throughout your session.
Mm-hmm.
And then whatever weight you lost is basically your sweat rate per hour. And then depending on what that number is, whether we recommend electrolytes or not. Look, if you're training 45 minutes to 60 minutes a day, you need electrolytes? Probably not.
Mm.
But if you're like a heavy sweater, even in that, say you're losing 2-3 kilos, then yes, of course, we're going to recommend electrolytes there. But it's more the longer duration sessions and the more intense sessions is when you'd recommend it.
Mm.
It's individualized. So I like to get everyone to do a hydration test that I work with,
Mm-hmm.
just to get, we don't want to waste people's money,
Yeah.
you know?
So like a hydration test is what? Just a piss test, right? Like.
No, I mean, for me, the hydration assessment would be trying to work out your sweat rate,
Oh, okay.
trying to optimize it. So, hey, say you lost a kilo or something, and then after that, this is how much we need to replace it by 1.25 to 1.5,
Yeah.
the amount you lost. Hey, do we need electrolytes? Potentially not this session, but if your session is any time longer than this, I recommend you include a few steps of electrolytes.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, also, before you start your training, potentially put in X amount of fluids before you work out to make sure you're starting it in a hydrated
Yep.
status.
Yeah.
So that's the personalization regarding that,
Mm. Okay.
which is good. And electrolytes, yes, good. Definitely if you're pushing hard and you're a heavy sweater and you're at a box gym that's like some
like a sauna.
yeah, some more Thai gyms in summer, it's ruthless.
Yeah.
And people are coming out drenched, you know.
And
So-
if you're cramping, right? Like I think
Yes,
if you
yes.
cramping is a great sign to know that, hey, you probably need to intake, some more electrolytes and some more fluids.
yes, for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
I did have a funny one with a client. We were doing cuts, and once we included electrolytes to his training sessions, he was like a new man.
Mm.
Like I couldn't believe the difference. He goes, "Oh my god, I feel amazing." I was like, "Oh, wow, what an overlooked factor by us." Well, we didn't do it for the first camp, but this was years ago, you know.
Yeah.
And then we started including it all the time. Doesn't matter what of a deficit he was in. We always make sure he had the electrolytes in there. He was a heavy sweater. Each session was like he come out of a shower. So
Yeah. Wow.
so you knew, and it made a huge difference for him.
Mm. All right. Well, if people want to find you, obviously we talked about it. It's the performancedietitian.ks.
And that's it.
Kristof Szanto. And, I think it's really important, especially if you're a combat athlete and you're really serious about doing this, it's great to have some protocols and actually understand, okay, what is the goal here? And actually be specific. I think we sort of touched on that
Be
a bit
specific, and communication is key.
earlier. Yeah.
Communication is key. That's very important.
Yeah. I think that's like to be able to tailor something, you need to be kept up to date with the information.
Yep.
And,
and you need to be able to adjust as the plan goes.
Yeah.
Like I don't give one plan for the 6 weeks or the 8-week cut and go, this is your plan and this will get you there, and then reach out in 5 week again and then we'll do your 5-week plan. No. I like to talk plenty, make changes wherever it's needed or
Yep.
wherever I think is deemed necessary.
Yeah. And you're always dropping nice information, like videos and things like that and infographics
I try.
on socials.
I
So-
try. I should be better with it, but it's an effort.
It is an effort.
You know it.
Yeah. Look,
Content creation.
it's
I
one of
just
those,
like to talk. I need a videographer that just follows me and I can just talk off the top of my head. And
there's
they'll be
plenty of those
making
guys
a video.
around.
We'll get there. We'll
We'll get there. All right. Well, thanks everyone, and
Thank you.
Hopefully they
Thanks for
found
having me, Johnny.
No, it
I
was great.
appreciate it, man.
All right. Too easy.
Peace.
Thanks everyone.